All right. Builders Build, Season 2, Episode 1. We got that intravenous alpha. The IV drip is in the veins right now. Full recovery mode. We're building the alpha arc, my brothers, to withstand the entrepreneurial storm. We're getting 2 of every creature in the Alphaverse. We got, we got 2 performance marketers, 2 fitness influencers, 2 CPAs, 2 overseas devs. 2 crypto bras. We got the whole 9. We're putting them all in the arc, and we're gonna survive the coming storm by giving you that alpha.
The alpha arc.
Yeah, all right. So like we said, different format in this new season. We're getting straight to the alpha. We're boarding the alpha arc, and that arc is setting sail. And we're kicking off with personal stacks. We're going to go through and share all of the sometimes really effective, sometimes completely crazy things that each of us do to be the high-powered individuals we are. And hopefully, there's some workflow tips you can gain from it. I don't know. And you guys got anything else for the intro? You guys?
I think we should formally lay out the change that is upon us, which is we're going from what was previously 5 or 6 topics to a new podcast. Builders Build is the new name, and we're doing a deep dive on one topic each pop, just going all the way in rather than jumping around. And like Warren mentioned, today is personal stacks.
So we gave you the yin. Now we're going to give you the yang. You know what I mean? And it comes? Full circle. Let's double click on that. Kick off. Sorry, I can't help but laugh when I say that phrase. Let's kick off into the first topic. So our task tracking and notes. What do you guys do to keep track of your task tracking and notes?
Can I just let me lead in here with I'm abandoning Rome.
I abandoned Rome a long time ago.
I used Rome for
completely
2 years.
insane. Yeah.
I
used it for 7 months, and it was James, have you been to Rome?
I've been to Europe several times. I abandoned Rome when I was 19, and I decided it just wasn't for me. I didn't like the culture.
You're like,
but when in Rome,
I like we're kind of sliding into James Explains here.
Yeah. Just so you know, really quickly, my mom texted me. I didn't send this to you guys. She goes, I'm really excited for season 2. I hope you guys still have a place for James Explains. I'm not excited.
Me too. I would never let it die. Don't worry.
Anyway, personal
James,
stacks,
are you actually
tracking.
familiar? Are you actually familiar with Rome?
I do know what Rome is. I've used it once or twice, but I never really gave it a shot. It's very... It had a very cult following, right?
It's task tracking with basic programming, essentially. Correct, right? Colin, is that a good description?
I would say it's database with absolutely insane interlinking, insane interlinking, and then it does so much more than that too with markup. So it's all markup based, right? So it's hit a parentheses to initiate this and double backslash to do that other thing. And if you get good at it, you can with markup, bust out a Kanban table or a Kanban board or do a table or do calculator things. I never did any of that. I just did all of my notes, all of my note taking really, and then some to-dos in there with really heavy interlinking, which means that if I'm taking a note today, that note is tagged with today. If that note is about my meeting with Oren, it's tagged with Oren. If in that meeting with Oren that's today we talk about the podcast, it's tagged with podcast, right? And it gets super thick, but it's really easy to do, and then therefore then if I put
hit the button,
right, if I put a to-do in there, that to-do then shows up when I look at my podcast, it shows up when I look at Oren, it shows up when I look at today, right? It's kind of like that, I think.
It got to a level of I just needed more simplicity because I was getting into complete insanity, and it was good for building libraries. It was good for me to be able to be all my interior design stuff, no matter when I dropped it in or whatever that is, I could just pull it all up at a click. But then I was like, okay, also this can really be solved by the search function of most of us that are Node apps, and it was just taking too much time and the browser based, and it wasn't quite it's not a modern UX, to put it lightly.
I think who it's really valuable for is people that are literally doing research for a book would be amazing. People refer to it as a second brain a lot, and I'm giving up on it because the mobile UX is almost is usable. Crazy. And I made it work for so long, and it just has gotten to the point where it's I can't copy and paste from here. It's just crazy. And
so what do you use? What's your go-to?
I mean, I'm literally, what I have for my bullet point here is I'm totally in flux. I think it's probably just going to be the Notes app.
I mean, I can give you
if I
a
had to
great
guess.
recommendation. It's there's an app I use called Brain Toss. And so the way Brain Toss works is you press a
you
button
being
on your
serious?
phone and you speak
sends
to
an
it,
email?
and then it sends
Oh,
you an
yeah.
email. Sends you an email directly.
You can't bring this out this early. People
Oh,
are-
sorry. Well, let me actually
gonna
give you
click out.
really how I break down. I'll give you really how I break down my
You actually use
productivity.
email. Break it down.
So from high level, I use this planner called Ink and Volt. It used to be called Spark Planner. It has yearly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, right? And so and it has like a 5-year plan in it and sort of a calendar. Point is, in the beginning of each year, I've used this for 5 years straight. I look at sort of what my plan are
That's
for
cool.
the plan is for the year, and then
proud
every
of you.
month it reminds you to check back, and every week to go check your yearly goals and make sure that what you're working on is sort of pushing towards that bigger concept. And so from there. Then I use, I for a while was just using, the reminder app, use tons of different things. I just started using something called Motion. I'm a pretty big fan of it. So basically what happens is it overlays your calendar, your Google Calendar, and it's
Not
a to-do list.
Notion.
Not Notion, Motion. And it's a to-do list, but then it takes those tasks and will time block them onto your actual calendar. And as the day goes by, if you miss a task, it throws it back onto the to-do list for you. So it doesn't just disappear. It doesn't just like totally gone forever, or it doesn't, you're reminded when you go look at it again that needs to be a new task. So I use that, and then and that sort of gets me through most of my day. And then we use Asana. And Asana, like I've been through the ringer. I'm way less technical than either of you guys, for sure. Trello was a little too basic for me. Jira was like my nightmare. I guess if you're like running sprints for code, Jira's probably the
It's
answer.
like if you're like running Scrum and shit, that's your answer.
Yeah, and so, but for me, Asana was just like the best answer for that. And then I think that the real major one for tasks and for sort of that organization is just like, and we could touch on it a bunch of times, but is Google, G Suite, right? Like it's just my calendar's in there. If you book with me, it goes on a Calendly, which goes directly through there. But that's sort of my stack of tasks and organization, if that makes sense.
And so I assume we're all Google boys here.
Yes,
should we tell anyone who's on Outlook should just leave now?
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like
No.
yeah.
And
if
edit
you're
that into
Superhuman,
we'll
that's
drop
so
that into the
cool.
intro.
You're so special,
Yo, have y'all
So
all
does
tried Superhuman? Have you?
No,
I
so
Superhuman.
Superhuman. But you have to pay to try it.
like
Superhuman
$30 a
is this
month.
different SaaS model, right? Where they like get on a sales call with you. You don't even get to.
Yeah.
There's no trial of it. Like you have to get an invite.
No.
I mean, I've right.
Yeah,
And then you
yeah,
got to pay
exactly.
before you use it.
I did Superhuman for a few months. Yeah, it's like a $30 a month product. There is an onboarding call, and it's excellent. I think the tough part is that Gmail has like replicated a lot. It's basically a hotkey thing, right? And so what they do is they gamify it pretty heavily, and then they do a really great onboarding to like actually get you into it. But for me, it was like a little too disconnected from the Google ecosystem. And then I just programmed I'd like turned on the hotkeys in Gmail, and I'd run probably 80% of what the Superhuman workflow is from my Gmail, and life is good.
Yeah, and related to that, like I signed up. I went to go do it, but really I use Mixmax because I need a bunch of the features that are in there, and I've onboarded our whole sales team to that because I ran like an outbound sales org, and we used SalesLoft at one point, which is like just a complete game changer in terms of like automated outbound stuff. But Mixmax is great because it plugs into your Gmail. There's a free version and there's paid versions, but it shows you who opens your emails and how many times and when, which is super useful if you're doing any level of outreach, or even if you're just like, should I follow up on this? And you're like, oh, they didn't open it, versus they opened it 4 times is a very different look. And then my wife uses it for all kinds of dark web activity, but then and also it does things like you can automate like field merge email, so you can send a dear blank, I'm reaching out to you, I hope everything is going well at blank, and kind of put together spreadsheets. And when I'm sending stuff out, I send like outbound stuff to our work, to buyers at our work for like high level accounts and things like that. There's a level of automation that comes from that, or PR outreach, or follow-ups to team members and stuff like that. You can just kind of set and fire and forget. And then another function on that that's amazing too is I'll send something to somebody, and it gives you the ability to reply to them if they haven't replied to you. You can kind of like preset it within a certain amount of time, and that just gives you like auto follow-ups and stuff. And that is all super super useful, especially if you are involved in any kind of sales capacity.
I think that email workflow is like probably the most underutilized I don't know if skill set is the right word, but I know that like so many people in our world just get completely overwhelmed by email, and I would be too. Actually, to be fair, this week I'm overwhelmed by email. I've lost track of the light this week, but generally speaking, my ability to keep up is like 1,000% dependent on workflow. And if I was using email the way that most people do, like it would be a lost cause.
Well, and you're big on the hotkeys, right?
Yeah, it's all
stuff into the
it's
workflow,
all hotkeys.
archiving on it.
Yeah,
are you still in box 0? Are both you guys in box 0?
I lost it this week. I'm deep this week, but it's but I think it, like for me, it's like 5 hotkeys and like committing an hour or 2 to like learning it, and it completely changes everything. It's like a fraction of the time on email, and the good news is it's all native Gmail stuff.
I think that one thing
people
people
threads
forget.
on that if you guys want to dig in.
Yeah.
So I'm at inbox 22, which is not bad. I feel fine about that. One cool thing that
Bro, you
that
don't
Gmail
even have a
added,
job.
Dude, my other one's got 3,000 emails in it. It's dude, I'm like out here trying to tell people what I do for a living, and it's sort of complex.
We love you.
But I appreciate it, but it's sort of half true. But so what I'll say though is that one cool thing that was Gmail added recently, and someone just told me about this, and I didn't realize, was snooze. I don't know. I mean, this is just me being an idiot, maybe, but I didn't realize you could snooze the email, and that was major difference for me.
That's a superhuman
function.
feature.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it makes you wonder, with something like Superhuman, pretty clearly Google could come in and just make it, most of them as just functions of Gmail, right? I think one thing that's interesting, and I'm sure you guys see this stuff all the time because we're all sort of like builders of side projects and things that are fun. Anyone who's not, go see what a normal email client is like. Forget Outlook even. Go look at Horde or Squirrel Mail or any of the ones that come inside cPanel, like in a, you know what I'm talking about? Client and it is just like the most like archaic, like you've stepped into 1992. And so I think we all take Gmail for granted because it is just the G Suite of products is just like phenomenal. It's just phenomenal overall. And personally, if I can, like I use Google Docs, I use Google Sheets, I use like just as a whole suite.
Oh yeah, same thing.
Really well.
There's a whole thing at our work where I'm like, cool, like I love the Excel markup pivot table you made, but if you can't put it in Google Sheets, then it's probably not useful at this company, and that's a separate. There's kind of the con guys like, it's a whole dynamic. Yeah.
We do not take Google for granted. I think early on in our merger, I was sold by our IT vendor that the security and control that is offered by Office 365 is like absolutely critical. So I swallowed my pride and we did it. And the security, a lot of the security and the automation, particularly the AI around filtering.
Yeah.
Oren doesn't see all of the phishing emails that are sent to our employees with his name on them.
I'm the one there. They're mostly phishing as me. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, exactly. The IT guy stuff is I think easier. But we switched, and it was. I don't take it for granted at all. It was absolutely hellish.
It's referred to as Landforce's folly internally.
Yeah. It's my only regret.
It's a black mark on an otherwise pristine record.
And just to be clear, we pulled the plug and switched back.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you one thing I realized as we were putting these stacks together, and I texted you guys this, was that I need to go into my life and look at, it's just an obscene amount of different things that I use, and some of them are just redundant in some regards. But it's a reminder that for everyone to sort of boil some of this down is forget sort of all the craziness of our different lives. Like, you really want to start something, $100, I promise you can start a business, especially service-based or unequivocally. And that's just a domain, a simple site, and then like G Suite. And you know what I mean? Like, it's really, really, truly that simple. And I think people overcomplicate like what they need. In fact, even I'm sure the three of us do overcomplicate sort of what we actually need. And I found I'd reached a point where, from a productivity standpoint, I normally look for all these hacks and all these things. When it really comes down to it, that's just not even, I don't even really need them all, right? And so like that's why it's sort of boiled back down into like, I would be fine with understanding where I want to be for the year, for the quarter, and maybe this week. And then here's just like a to-do list for the day, right? And obviously I don't have an assistant, but if I did, they would hypothetically triage that stuff for me. Not that there'd be a ton of it to do, but like I can see like how someone could need that.
So while we're still on the to-do list topic, do you guys have paper or notebooks as part of your workflow at all? Because like
100%.
All the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love a notebook.
So first of all, I like notebooks that are not just lined paper. So right now I'm using graph paper for grid. For a while I used dots, and basically I ordered and non-standard, not 8.5 by 11. I use 11 by 8.5, like top bound hot dog, top bound hamburger. Excuse me,
Bulldog.
bulldog. But so I ordered like 8 super premium non-lined paper notebooks on Amazon. I found my favorite one, and that's the notebook I use and have used for a while now. And then my workflow is I take notes on the left, and the right third is my to-do column, and everything that I need to do or that needs to get done, goes in that right column. And then at the end of the day, or sometimes at the end of the week, just depending how crazy it is, I go through my pages, and anything that is still open then goes into Asana, either for myself to track or to be delegated. So I basically just have like big scratch pad, whiteboard, etc., and then task tracking on the side. But then I port it into the digital world regularly to get it off paper.
That's fun. I'm doing a super similar thing to that with the notebooks, where it's like a semi version of the bullet journaling. But one thing I took away most from the bullet journal, if you don't know, that's like a framework where you like write certain things. There's a certain little like symbol structure for doing stuff. But what I kept out of using that is I'll take the notes and I have like a triangle, like an open triangle, and then you fill in the triangle when the thing is completed because it feels good to fill stuff in. But also like I can go flip through the pages and be like put all the open triangles into a tracker from the written notes. Yep. But it was funny, much like James kind of looking back, like, oh, how many things, God, I have so many things I use for this. When I actually looked back on this, I was like, I've been doing the same thing for like a year, which is really rare for me to actually have found a workflow that works. I was like, oh, this is actually kind of dialed. And so I've got it. So I use Evernote for everything. I take notes on there, all synced across devices. And Evernote's great because it has like all the checklist functions. It scans all the photos in, like it's all searchable. But I ended up having like thousands of notes because I would just add new notes constantly. But now I've got my like all my recurring notes, like because they have pinned notes now. And so I pin our weekly, basically, like I have top 3s for every department in the company. So I pin that one because then I base all my one-on-ones off it. And then I have individual notes for things that are recurring meetings. And then I have a week task and a weekend task. And a weekend task is like stuff that happens on weekends or at night. But I can just kind of like, so then I know I'm only going back and forth between these notes. And I have like a fitness note and it has all the links to all the workouts if I'm tracking meals or doing any of that kind of stuff that's all in the fitness note. And that's been working out great. And then I bring all the tasks either go into, we have Asana for work and I have Asana for all like the Upwork contractors and stuff. So I just load Asana on Sunday night with all the tasks that come from it for all the contractors and whatnot. And then they kind of go throughout the week. But that like Asana times Evernote workflow has been great. Is
Evernote very different from like the modern Apple Notes? I just know it's gotten a lot better. And I'm trying to decide what's next on this front.
A lot of it, you pay for Evernote is the only thing, but it has there's offline, online, and a bunch of. I just found the Apple Note thing a little bit harder to actually access all the stuff and then have all the functions inside of it. But I'm pretty sure you can probably replicate the complete workflow. I've just now been in Evernote for years, so I'm like, shit. Right. I have everything in there. And we used Notion. When we were running the agency, we ran everything in Notion. I've now tried to do things that require Notion-like work, like content planning in Coda, just because Colin is a big Coda fan. I'll let you give your Coda pitch here in a second. So use it for that. I'm like, rather than use Notion, Notion is superior if you're doing simpler things or if they're becoming forward-facing things. But I think Coda is significantly deeper if you're doing anything that is basically building a complex database. But Notion has been kind of great for that too, where you're building things inside of things and project-based spreadsheet workflow. What's your Colin? Want to give the Coda spiel?
Yeah, there's definitely a thread on this in our future. I think Notion is super popular. At the end of the day, it's like notes with tables, and obviously the nature of tables is that you can reference them and pull them into multiple places and look at them in different views. If we're comparing the two, I would say Notion is the little red wagon, and Coda is the big red Lamborghini. Coda is an absolute monster, and it kind of takes the I think their tag or I think their value prop is docs. I can't remember what it is, but basically it's revolving around, we use Google Docs and Google Sheets for a bunch of stuff that are not text documents and spreadsheets, and so Coda is docs that are for all those other things, and it's basically just database and views and word processing, and it is ridiculous. It is ridiculous what you can do in there. And for me, like kind of like learning how to use Coda kind of like shine a light on the way that the world works. And by the world, I mean like just software and database in general. And I don't know, Coda is absolutely incredible.
So you said Coda's a beast. Coda's ridiculous. Coda's incredible. But give us an example of what that does. That's something that it can't be done inside a regular set of software, just so people get a picture.
Yeah. So I think first it's helpful to appreciate that like every piece of software that we use is just like a database with records that we view, we create, we edit, we delete. The CRM is the best example of that. And so Coda basically makes doing whatever you need to do with that super easy, super flexible. The best example I've got is a doc that came together over like 18 months. I started on it when we were in the hospital and my daughter was about to be born. And then at this point, I haven't really looked at it in like 6 or 8 months probably. But this is a document that runs our entire backend, supply chain, manufacturing management, costing. It's pretty crazy. It's probably 20 or 30,000 rows. The relationships are wild, right? It's taking raw material batches. It's assigning them to lots that are for a specific product line. It's converting the raw materials into the finished goods. It's managing the labor and the costs associated with that conversion, and then it's managing all the SOPs around the POs into our system, the bill of materials going into our system. It's really like everything leading up to running the accounting software, which in a complicated business, there's a lot that has to happen besides the clicking in the ERP. And so it's everything that leads up to that in a Coda doc. Yeah.
And so if you didn't follow that, Colin's got a Coda for Dummies complete course available for $7.99. You're coming shortly. We could, I think, hard pivot, hard move. Everyone's like,
sorry,
"Oh, cool, you guys have." No, that was we asked. Yeah, we're good. Let's hard pivot into fitness. Now I know. Look, some of us have more challenges than others.
This is interesting though, because hold on, I want to say something. There's a clear difference in the way that we organize our lives from that before, right? Like the Coda stuff. It's like I use Coda for our stuff, right? Because Colin set it up and I'll do it, right? But in general, that's so beyond me, right? I'm not technical like that. But then what I find is interesting is I know that with the fitness stuff, there's at least one thing that we all like have completely mesh on, right? And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just think it's interesting. There's certain parts of our lives that are so different.
Well, I think that's easy. And so for people's context too, like I think some of the reason that is like James's stuff is more entrepreneurial and task focused, right? You're trying to achieve a set of like specific things and are using like the tools to achieve that, and then like I'm really trying to manage like just there's so many projects and so many things that I'm really just concerned with access to the data and how fast I can translate that into other people doing it. And then Colin sort of has that same set of challenges, but also is saying, hey, I need to build technical tools with it. And those are very different roles, and I think people can kind of find themselves inside those groups. But yeah, the piece of technology that we all share in common, the Fitbit Alta, is really a... no, sorry, I'm joking.
Damn, I was spacing out for a second there, and that counted.
We shared. So shout out Fitbit, sponsor the pod. I know you guys have come a long way down, but we can bring you all the way back up, baby. You know what I mean? Like this is we can help you. We can do. We'll give you a product roadmap. You guys just need to embrace cannabis. We can work this out. But that one piece of hardware is the Whoop. We are all active Whoop users.
By the way, James, Whoop has embraced cannabis. Every morning it asks me if I smoked marijuana the day before.
I'm in a cannabis Whoop group. Yep. Obviously I rank towards the top, as it comes to fitness
consumption.
You're
at the highest level of consumption. That is.
But speaking of which, what's y'all's skin temps variants right now?
Ooh, I don't have the new.
Look at the 4.0, brother. Colin, that broke boy shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? That Oregon shit. They don't ship to Oregon. They're like, we'll ship them. We'll ship tier 3 cities last. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, we
got the LAs quickly.
I've I got a new phone like 10 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, and haven't been able to get it to connect. It's weird. So it's like living its
Dude,
life.
I think it's
I
some
have not
planned
pulled it up in a
obsolescence
while.
stuff. My old Whoop was garbage, and I kept trying to get them to give me money, to give me my money back. And then they got the new one, and it's connected perfectly. Everything works completely perfectly.
Damn, so
I think it's like some planned
Colin's
obsolescence.
just flexing the Whoop for the streets. He's just like, yo, I just have it on for like,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it's like the Rolly.
Some people wear Rolly. I have this like elastic band with.
Well, like
Bluetooth
in
chip.
Portland, people will be like, "You work at Under Armour?"
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're wearing a Whoop band. But what is it that I love the Whoop, James? What does he like about the Whoop?
James is not here anymore. James?
I see him, but
Sorry,
know,
sorry. You guys cut out for 1 second. I can hear you now.
oh yeah, I was asking, what do you like about the Whoop? Or go, Colin.
Oh, the Whoop is like just a game changer for me, but I'm addicted to it. I'm like full on
Yeah.
addicted to Whoop. I'm a slave to this machine. Like I will literally, when we're done, I'll be like, oh man, like my recovery is only 74% today. I got to get out there tonight and
That sounds like a
and get
dream.
more sleep.
74. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you guys have
No,
seen me at
no,
1%.
to be fair. But yeah, we've all been there at the one. No, but it is a game like I didn't look. It took me like 6 months to start getting into the green, and then once I was in there, and I was like today I'm at a 70. I'm like great. Like I get nice now. I'm like a 94. I'm like it's a and you can tell because I would have this problem. I think the reason that I gravitate to the recovery in the same way was like I used to be like, all right, I'm tired. Cool, I'm just gonna put a couple more days in like this, and then I'll get better. And that's not the answer, right? Like when it was like, cool, like 4 days a row in the red, like you're only getting worse. And I was like, okay, cool. Going to bed at 8 on like the third day of that and then coming back like full green the next day is like such a better experience than just working through until the end. And it's funny how much that's now gone into my mentality and how much I pay attention to like, am I getting this recovery or not? And like, am I hitting the strain goal or not?
I think my favorite thing about it, I don't know that much about like the Oura Ring and the other devices on the market, but from my perspective, the Whoop was the first one that was tracking the info and then like making it useful, right? Like so, like adding the questionnaire piece to like find out about what happened in your day that it obviously couldn't figure out without you telling it, and then showing you over time and helping you find trends like, oh, when you
Super
read
useful.
every night before bed, you get 10% better recovery or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and so for those that don't know, so when you open up Whoop every morning when you wake up, or the first time you open the app, it asks you a questionnaire for the night before. You can set the questions, and I've used this really heavily, just trying to learn a lot more about kind of cannabis overall, like at work, and then just how it impacts life. And so I use it a lot of like, all right, do I smoke? Like smoking cannabis, I realized hurt my recovery. Edible cannabis increased my recovery, and it's like little things like that where if you actually look at it, because it'll give you a monthly report and show you like. And there's all these different things you can have, and you take medication, or you can set up all your own questions. But if you really want to solve a problem and look at it over a period of 30 days, they do all the hard work for you. You just enter into the journal, and then you're going to get your monthly reports, and it's going to be like, here's how this changed week to week, and here's how this variant worked, and that's like powerful, actionable data versus like how many steps did you have, or how many like what those actions are, and I thought that was. Particularly interesting. I also find they have all these like variances of like, again, we joked about your skin temp, heart rate variance or whatever, but like I have bad allergies and it will tell me when I wake up my heart rate variance will be off if it's like gonna be a bad allergy day. Like I know immediately now because like I won't be sleeping right from it through the night, and I'm like, cool, I take the medication right away, whereas I don't take it any other time. And it's like little things like that, and that's how a lot of people were tracking that they got COVID, is because their heart rate variance would jump considerably. And
one thing I think is cool about it too is like, at its surface, we're thinking about it as fitness tracking, right? Like, because I'm pretty like careful about fitness and calories in and out, but really when it comes down to it, this sort of fits into a lot of our lives, right? Like for me, when I'm worried about recovery, like this has made me start to take sleep much more importantly, right? And so like, and that's I think really
and depth of sleep.
Yeah, and depth of sleep, and that's really important. So, the third of your life you're asleep, and that changes the other 2/3 of your life pretty drastically, right? I know I have a lot of friends who are those guys that can sleep, guys and girls that can sleep 4 hours, 3 hours, and just run it for years on end. I'm not that guy. Like, that's just not me. I wish it was. I used to try and make it be me. I've recognized that, like, I really need 7.5 hours. I mean, I can function on 5, but, like, if I can get 7+, like, then my productivity for the hours I'm awake is astronomically better than if I'm at 6, because I just have less in me. Now, it's different, I think, where you guys are at work-wise, where, like, there's just no choice, right? Like sort of you just have to keep running. But like I think I have a little bit more freedom, and so with a little bit more freedom, I can sort of play with my productivity levels in a different way, where because my time is more up to me.
But it was funny because like you're 100% right. But I realized I would always work. Okay, cool. I'm putting all the work, and then I'm gonna get to the weekend, and I'm gonna make up for it, and then realize that that's the exact wrong thing. Like I don't need my recovery to be 90% on the weekend. Like I can hang out on the weekend and chill the fuck out. I need to be getting like that really good night's sleep on like the Tuesday night and be like, yo, if I'm gonna keep these hours of like getting that in on those weekdays so I perform on the days, and that changed my outlook on things like pretty radically, which I thought was really interesting and wouldn't have there throughout the Whoop. And so you too can own Whoop with the code BUILD at whoop.com. Choose your band, choose from the new Miami edition, the sleek Python edition, and if you want real life snakeskin, you can talk to our other partners at Joe's Exotic Crocodile Skins for technology outerwear. Yeah.
Use code BUILD. That's a real strip mall exotic animal zoo.
All right. So, what other key fitness things are in there? Anything else key for sleep? I know James, you've got a little sleep stack.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a sleep stack. I mean, so for me, I used to. It's funny because when I was like a teenager, I could sleep for like 20 hours straight. I mean, granted, I probably was partaking in like a lot of extracurricular activities. And I was, always late to school and stuff, but I could sleep all day. I had no problem. I have a really tough time sleeping now. In fact, I openly would tell people I'm a really bad sleeper. Like whenever I start to date someone, I'm like, just a heads up, I really am bad at sleeping. And so I try and take it more seriously
James,
now.
Like first time I talked to James, he's like, hey,
I told you I was a bad sleeper.
I'm a bad sleeper, brother. I'm ordering 8 sleep. You want to go in on this 8 sleep with me?
Dude. Yeah, we go.
Use Joe Pompliano's code for.
No. But so my stack is simple these days, right? And it is, I wear a sleep mask. I actually think it makes a big difference. Oren, you're at my house today, right? My blinds are not super strong. Dude, sick. I wear a sleep mask. I actually was at this girl's house the other day, and it was in her bedroom, whatever, and I saw she had a sleep mask. So I was like, you wear a sleep mask too? It was like this weird, nerdy, like connection. But sleep mask, I use Corova Black Bottle CBN THC mix.
Hey,
I do like
sponsored pod.
Yeah, me too, brother. That shit's a cranker. That shit really works.
Corova, please. Yeah. I wish I knew someone at Corova so we could get some sponsorship for the pod. But and then I normally take a melatonin too. And that's my better alternative.
Yeah, melatonin
that does
too.
Me well. Dude, well, I used to be honest with you, I used to be rotating like Unisoms every night and Benadryl every night and NyQuil every night. And it's just so bad for you. And so for me, the sleep snack is an ice cold room, a sleep mask, Corva Black Bottle, and a melatonin, and it makes a big difference that I worked out during the day. Like a really, really big difference.
It's funny because I use the black bottle to get off of melatonin. So like the combination, like big THC and CBD. And I like the black bottle because there's a lot of weed gummies out there, but they take like an hour or so to kick in. Whereas the black bottle's nano, so it kicks in like 15 minutes. But I use it to get off of melatonin because I would wake up drowsy. And I thought THC was much better than that. But I just tried these Rose Delights. I think they're like a holy tonic sleep gummy.
I saw you post about
it. Deepest sleep I've ever had. But it was one of those like where when I'm on, whether it's melatonin or even like the THC CBN, I'm not dreaming. I'm just down sleep. The sleep from the Rose Delight, this like the sleep edition one they have was like vivid fucking dreams. And Marnie had it too. We did 2 nights in a row, and we're both having like, I'm sleeping better than I've slept in my entire life. I'm having like intense, like epic dreams, and I don't ever have that kind of memory in there. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And they're doing, because they use rosin inside their gummies, and this is like a very like sleep focused. This is the kind of most intense full spectrum cannabis that you can get inside an edible. And I was like, oh, this shit. This is for the crazies.
Let me know where to buy it. I'll buy it, man. I'm convinced, and so I didn't buy in this apartment. I kept having a queen size bed and like a decent like $800 like whatever delivery like the popular foam mattresses, right? My next place when I know I'm gonna do a king size bed, I'm going to drop so much money on my bed, and I'm so convinced that like this is the way. Like forget a nice car, forget a nice watch. Like I want to sleep well. Like, because it is a third of my life and I use it every single day for years on end, and it makes the other 2/3 of my life astronomically better if I sleep well. So like if there's any singular item, it should be a mattress that you spend your money on. I mean, I really believe
I was going to say, are you guys like weird, millennial Casper guys, or are you kind of more traditional mattress store? You guys got the 8 sleep?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm looking at the 8 sleep. We haven't pulled the trigger.
I got a Tuft and Needle, baby. That's the #1 Amazon mattress, but I don't think it's the classiest. Tuft and Needle sponsor us. You know what I mean? I'm down for a new mattress, but it doesn't feel like the best.
8 sleep sponsor the pod. You know what I mean?
So Kelsey and I got one of the DTC mattresses that you could returned it. We had this stretch where we were staying in Airbnbs, and a lot of Airbnbs say what kind of mattress they have, and so we like specifically tried a handful of these and ended up on the purple one. Is purple one of the brands? I don't know.
Yeah,
we basically tried a bunch in Airbnbs over the course of a while, and then got with that one, because when you get one of those big mattresses with the free return policy and then you decide you don't want it, like it's not that good. It's not that good of a return policy anymore. Yeah, you got to deal with it. So, so I was gonna say, I religiously do not drink caffeine after 2 p.m. If I do, I will talk all night in my sleep, which I assume isn't good for my sleep. It certainly isn't good for the other people that share a home with me. And then
shout out the whole family. Shout out wives, sister wives, cousins, babies.
What I mean is, like, I've been known to, like, I explained to Kelsey how to like wire a car stereo in my sleep once. It also, like, obviously is very closely linked to sleepwalking, which means I'm moving around the house.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, no, Marnie is. I negotiated my sleep because I tend to practice. I practice like pitches and things like that all the time. And I like think through what I'm going to say. And and so she's constantly like, I don't know who you're trying to sell to or whatever like that. But if I have caffeine past a certain time, but now that I've cut that down, and the cannabis helped that too. I don't think I've sleep negotiated for a while.
To be honest with you, that reminds me that I shouldn't about caffeine. Every morning I wake up, and this is going to be poison, but I drink 2 cups of coffee. No, I do 2 cups of Keurigs, which Oren already thinks I'm poisoning myself with plastic, which I am. Colin and I are Keurig.
You're poisoning. You guys are poisoning the fucking world. First off, and poisoning your wallets.
Then I do a scoop of pre-workout. So I'm like 400
every morning.
Milligrams. I'm like 400 plus
like
milligrams of caffeine.
My guy's hitting that fucking Provigil right off the smack. Freebasing that shit into the vein.
By like 8 o'clock, 8:30 every morning, I am 400 plus milligrams of caffeine into the day, and my skin is itching, and I'm
your eyes have rolled all the way to the back of your head. You're just
So I was having dinner the other night, and dinner ends. It's like 11 o'clock, and I order a double espresso, and this girl's like, "This is why you cannot sleep." And it doesn't even click for me, but it probably should have a lot less caffeine in my life, and I should probably have.
You have to do a ceremonial matcha at 5 p.m. every day, because otherwise you're not engaging the culture.
I drink a ton of caffeine. I drink probably 300 to 400 milligrams a day, but just never after 2 o'clock. I think never. Not in 10 years.
Everyone says to do the no blue light stuff like that. I think that might make a difference too. My best sleep I ever had was when I was living in Malaysia, and I would do. I was working out super hard. I meditated every day. I had no television in my room, no screens. And I was just like content. And that's the real crazy thing about all this, is that what really comes down to why I can't sleep, it's not because I'm not tired. I'm constantly tired. It is that my mind is racing and I'm anxious. And so I'm just trying to like sedate myself to the point where I just can't even move. And so contentment is the best way to get a good night's sleep, I think.
I think on a related note, so I'm always chronically tired, and similarly because like I just like being awake. I like the things that I get to do while I'm awake, whether it's like really it's that easy. So
because some people don't want to get up in the morning. There's a difference.
My daughter is 2.5, and some mornings I drag certainly, but I haven't slept. I've slept in like less than 10 times, and she was bored, because like I would just so much rather be awake at like 6:30 or 6:45 and like hanging out and mess around with her than trade places with my wife and sleep in. Like my wife will probably tomorrow will be like, you should sleep in this morning. But like I would just rather be like building some blocks.
But shots fired at Kelsey. You saying Kelsey sleeps in every day?
My Kelsey loves sleeping in and does not need to prove like her time with the kid to anyone.
Well, let's shot fired on James mentioned the no blue light. Like no blue light would be great unless you got wives that are on fucking TikTok until they fall asleep. And shout out Colin, myself, Chad, everyone in the gang. You can only do so much. I'm like, can you please put that in the other room for 30 minutes before we go to sleep? My wife's like, yeah.
That reminds me. So what I used to not have a TV in my room for years. I grew up with one, but then I didn't for years, and I slept much better. My ex wanted TV in the room, and now I'm addicted to it again. But it reminds me of something I wanted to say about the notebook sort of workflow, like the hack, was one thing I used to tell she was on a board. She was on a couple of different boards. One was at Wharton and one was at HBS. And so they would always give her all this like swag from Harvard Business School and from Wharton. And she'd come home just with these stacks of notebooks that would say like Harvard on them, Harvard Business School and Wharton and stuff. And so when I would go into meetings, I would just be rolling out, it was like the silent flex. I'd be like, oh, I will take my notes in my Wharton, and be, until someone's like, oh, you went to Wharton? And it's like, not really.
Went to, I've been to Wharton in spirit.
So yes,
heard of it.
Yeah, I did.
I got for my wife for the holidays. I got her a series of collegiate sweatshirts just because it's very in with like the Princess D documentary and where kind of millennial culture is now. But she's got like the Harvard, the Stanford, like the whole nine, and it's just like, and with her personality, it's like classic to like just be rolling up. And it's just,
I
like,
wear a Harvard.
like
I wear a Harvard
sweatshirt.
bomber. I actually have a vintage Harvard bomber that I wear pretty regularly. I used to wear it when I worked in nightclubs a lot.
Yeah, one of my favorite workout pieces of gear I used to have is I had thrifted. It was like the Goldman Sachs like winter retreat 2003, like the mathletes, and it was like a guy with like a typewriter and like a stack of money and shit. And people would be like, "Oh, were you at the 2000? Were you at the 03 retreat?" And I was like, "No, brother, I was 18."
Oh man,
not a Goldman.
But
All right,
so what
moving
else-
on
what else we
from
have
fitness,
here? Yeah.
sleep. Yeah, let's hit email. We'll start getting into some of the business side of this. We can scroll through clips.
Sure.
I know we already start hitting the time. So email marketing. What's your all preferred email marketing platform?
For me, for e-commerce, Klaviyo. I think everyone in the world will tell you Klaviyo is it. Klaviyo. We're going to debate that. And then for everything
Klaviyo,
else,
brother.
I'm a big fan of Convertkit now. And I've used a lot of different things, right? I've used ActiveCampaign, I've used Mailchimp, I've used like true enterprise level stuff like Oxygen to mail like 20
Eloquent, baby.
million emails
I mean,
a day.
shout out the gang. You know,
Yeah.
Marquetta, where we at? Pardot, shout out the squad.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
We doing
Now
clouds,
I'm really
brother.
get into it. But I'm a huge fan of Convertkit for its simplicity. I really genuinely am, and I think they do a good job with it. And then if you're selling like physical goods, Klaviyo's the answer, I think, and that's
just Klaviyo's
it's
the
that
fucking
simple.
What
about you guys?
So recently, like Kelsey uses Klaviyo on her business, and I've used it in the past. When we were looking at some stuff for the Unrivaled stuff, Klaviyo is not really geared for like multiple brand. And the sales pitch, the guy was like, "Well, yeah, you'd have like 6 accounts," and I was like, "No." So the long and short of it is this all circled back down to HubSpot, and I've never been super interested in HubSpot. I'm like completely blown away by it. Like in terms of functionality, there's a couple of things that are just like approached differently than Klaviyo, which like initially kind of threw me off, but like HubSpot is an absolute animal. It's like a different use case than what a lot of people do, but the automation, like it's crazy. Every single day I'm like, holy smokes.
And so to get some clarity for the code listening at home, like depending on what you're building, like so if you're building e-commerce or you're selling something, like Klaviyo is hands down the GOAT, but it's the GOAT because if you go in there and you just turn on all the automatic flows they have, the link with your Shopify, it just wins. Every single one of them win and they print money. Even just the default things you have, just literally just turn them on and like mildly edit the text. And then Convertkit is great where like I've used Klaviyo all e-commerce. Convertkit we use for things like the agency or personal emails, especially if you're using WordPress. There's like triggers and stuff. It's a very just simple platform. You're not going to overthink it. You just send text emails. But then HubSpot is if you're building like a shared list org or like a complicated thing where you have like, yeah, we sell 6 products or we have a suite of brands. We don't want to have an account for every brand. Or like to our point, like we have to Colin talking about how we use it at work. It's like we have a delivery service. We have 5 retail stores. We have 3 brands. We want to know who intersects. And we want to be able to create campaigns and flows and automations based on that and tie in e-commerce. But also consider if you're like, hey, I'm actually working together with the homies to sell some info products. Or we have an agency and we have we're managing different stuff related to clients. You have all this data you're able to store in there and overlap and cross-sell and work through that HubSpot really gives you some next level advanced functionality for.
Yeah.
I don't use
A+.
HubSpot, but I think one thing that seems like the answer is that it's really an intersection of, and I think people conflate these two ideas, marketing and sales. But HubSpot is marketing and sales, right? And so like marketing and sales make two totally
customer
different
service.
functions.
And
yes,
customer service. Yes, it's marketing,
The chat
sales,
function is a great
and customer
addition.
service, which is like that's we're basically if you think about retail, you're a hop, skip, and a jump from like needing a CRM as soon as you make the delivery connection, right? Like with delivery, we have people calling us. It's like, whoa, we need a CRM,
Sure.
and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what if instead of an email list, everybody was in a CRM? So not only could we see the emails that we're sending them, but we can also see they bought yesterday, again, whether or not that was walking into a physical store, right? And it goes crazy. But having all those 3 together is like, when our call center rep picks up a call, they click on the customer's profile. They can see that they opened the promo email that went out yesterday. They can see they live chatted us 3 days ago. They can see that they got cold outbound like the week before. It's so good. It's A+.
We're not just saying that because we want HubSpot to purchase the video library associated with this. But if you guys do want to purchase it, we are happy to throw out a case study for how you use it and why you guys are great. Honestly, on almost any episode, we understand the checkbook that y'all have. We understand the audience that we have. Let's build together, brothers, sisters.
I'm going to put this out there into the universe today, right? Is that like if there's a great exit for us, it's HubSpot. HubSpot. Yeah. I feel like my first million was cool. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool, I guess. You know, the hustle, like that energy is cool. But there's a lot more alpha.
Could get aboard the Alpha Arc, or we could we could land the Alpha Arc upon HubSpot.
We need a copywriter. All right. Sam's a copywriter.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So leading into the next segment of this, because it ties right in. So CRM, like go to CRMs. Yeah, I know we've all had some pain and pleasure. I don't ever want to look at Salesforce, ever again. Similar. I'll hit it first. My go-to is Copper. I really think it's a CRM that's basically built on top of G Suite, and so it really ties into your existing Gmail workflows super well, and has records and really easy to build pipelines and stuff. And so in any org that's using Gmail, that's kind of my go-to. And I've used it for personal. I don't do personal CRM anymore. Like I don't keep I used to keep a database of contacts, especially because I was in Austin and everyone was in a startup or in venture, and I needed both of those things to pitch for clients.
Are you scoring your friends? You scoring your friends?
Any person you meet, or just like, when's the last time I just kept in touch with this acquaintance? And I was like really working it because I was like, thought I was that guy.
Trying to be somebody.
Luckily I gave up. Yeah. But what about y'all? CRM choices?
I actually use Asana as a CRM currently, but Copper sounds really cool because I don't do a ton of. I mean, I should use a CRM more. I've tried like Pipedrive before. I don't have a ton of stuff that's useful for at this point. As I think it's sort of with the info product stuff, as we think about sort of higher ticket backends and like how to figure out like who's really needs handholding and that kind of stuff, CRMs become much more important in understanding who bought this.
Pipedrive is super solid too.
Yeah, Pipedrive is great. But I'm working on a project now. I only use CRMs like intermittently. And I have a project right now for a client that I'm using a CRM, and I'm just using Asana as a CRM. I think what's interesting about that is like, again, at its core, like if you got 100, prospects or 50 in total, like you could just Google Suite that. You could just you could just Sheets that one to the moon. You know what I mean? As long as it's not so complex. And I think that like, if you need it, you need it. But if not, then you can get so much done for $10.
Here's what we're gonna do, James. If you're using Asana as a CRM, I'm gonna build you a Coda Doc CRM that's gonna change your life. I'm totally serious. Totally serious.
That's what all the kids are doing now, right? Is they're replacing we don't need this entry level CRM. Which I think it's probably really hurt Pipedrive and Copper's kind of business, and saying we're gonna do this in Notion or in Coda. Although one of my favorite anecdotes is that we had been searching for project management software for a while, tried some things. We'd gone off Asana, we had gone onto Coda, and then one day Colin shows up and he's just like, "Hey, we need everyone to get into Monday." And I'm like, "Are we serious?" And I signed up for it. We spent 2 days in it, and it was like back to Coda. And it was just one of those like the indecision around rolling through those platforms. I think it's just a recurring trend that we can all appreciate. I
feel like the context for that is this is after spending 2 years in Asana, like before Oren's
losing Asana,
2 or 3 years in Asana, then 18 months out, and then like what are we doing? It's always
and then Coda.
It's always
Asana. People wouldn't adopt Coda,
it's always
and then Monday,
Asana.
And then now we're back. Now we're back into Asana.
Monday seemed. Never mind. We don't need to. Yeah.
Any other CRM notes for people
on the CRM topic? Because I'm a problem. So like our sales team in Distro uses a custom CRM that I've built because, and I think this is interesting, every CRM that I have seen is built for deal flow and deal pipeline. And that does not work in account management, which means that, as soon as you open up the CRM, if you want to be like looking at the business, you just have to like configure it in a way that it's really not meant to be configured. And then when you take a business like ours where, at any given moment, our sales team, depending on the market, is selling somewhere between 4 and 8 brands. Now think of each of your customers as, being an opportunity for 8 brands and then, 2 to 4 product lines within each of those brands. And none of them are pipeline-based deals. It is maintenance, right? It is.
Sure.
close the deal and then maintain the deal. And like CRMs just are not built for that.
CRMs are meant from getting a prospect from cold to a sale, right?
Yeah, they're for pipelines, like all of them. All of them. Yeah, all of them.
As opposed to like
I've yet to
continuously
see one
maintaining that, right?
Yeah.
Well, big opportunity there.
All right, popping down the list. Web CMS. Who's making? What are we making websites in, brothers?
WordPress
till I die. So here's the thing. WordPress is like 60% of the internet. It is one of the most magical things I've ever experienced in my entire life. With that said, I've used a little bit of Webflow, which I think is sick. I think Webflow is really cool.
Webflow's cool.
And then I hate to say this. I've tried to pull away from it, but like I'm using ClickFunnels again for something, and it is just like
that's great. ClickFunnels, besides the fact they charge you an arm and a nose, ClickFunnels is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it loads a little slow. My only problem with ClickFunnels now is that like you can look at the ClickFunnels page and you see that it's. I mean, I can recognize the ClickFunnels page pretty clearly, right? Most of them are pretty simply templated out. Part of it is like that. This is so sad, but I really want that plaque. I really want that platinum record. You know what I mean? The ClickFunnels gives out, which I think you guys
getting the psychology. You want to go into the ClickFunnels Facebook group and say, brothers, sisters, I've crossed the threshold. This is my plaque and everything. And all the people are like, one day I'll be you. They've really got it. They've got the social proof element. ClickFunnels is a murderer. I keep the full. I keep like the enterprise subscription to lead pages because I use it for so many things. But it's just like it has all the same stuff as ClickFunnels now, but it's just like better. Besides, unless you're doing like full e-commerce within it, but it's just like it just looks better. But can't hate on that.
I've used lead pages, ClickFunnels. There's a bunch like that. ClickFunnels is just like the OG. So anyway, ClickFunnels, that stack for me is like ClickFunnels, Stripe. Tidio is a live chat. I can tell you like really interestingly, a little insight into my info product business is that everyone thinks we have like a $2,000 offer and everyone thinks you need to close that on a phone call. I can tell you that's not true at all. There's no one hopping on phone calls. We're closing that all the sales page and then a live chat to handle objections, right? And the live chat, there's a real human there. If you got a questions, you can answer it. But sort of that stacked together, I think that at scale, higher ticket, obviously for sure, a phone call might be needed, or if you're a lot colder of an audience, a phone call might be needed. But it's been really fascinating to me that we've done a few $100,000 just with a sales page and a live chat, right? So Tidio is the live chat, and then we're gonna do a Hotjar this time because I want to sort of understand a little bit more.
Hotjar is
around the page.
Hotjar is excellent. I just turned it back on for our stuff, and in addition to the heat maps, it's got the screen recordings. When it gives you a list of the screen recordings, it it gives you sentiment, right? It like tries to guess when people are getting frustrated. So if you got 100 recordings, you can go through and look at the 5 that are like somebody's frustrated, and then like watch what they're seeing. It's really, really good.
WordPress and Shopify have been interesting. I was trying to push our agency towards Webflow when it was first coming out. So like, this is the future because you can make stuff look so much better and load so much faster. But then at the end of the day, I was like, it's not. It doesn't have the ecosystem. WordPress has the ecosystem, and until you're getting to a big business, like a business I'm an advisor to is moving from a really complicated WooCommerce WordPress instance with like every level of plugins and complete wholesale and 7 languages and WPML and like all the plugins to do that and taxes and like all that info, and then it was getting too big. Like once you're starting to cross the $5 million a month mark, I think like you kind of have to be back over in Shopify Plus and some of these places where it's like completely cleaner, and then they've built themselves for this. But yeah, that's the.
I totally forgot about Shopify. I mean, I know Colin's a fan of the WooCommerce, but I mean, I've sold millions and millions of dollars of products with Shopify. I think that it's not like the most elegant of them all, but I think for like sort
WordPress
of out
is
of the
much
box
faster
solution,
and more universal. Yeah, but for e-commerce,
out of the box,
you just have to want to. I mean, you have to want to build a little bit if you're doing WooCommerce, and you have to want to. Pay attention to maintaining it and keeping it fast.
And if you want any level of custom stuff, like Shopify, if you're completely content with what's out of the box, but you'll get so frustrated if you want to do anything special.
Been there, man. We were trying to do these trying to do these one-click upsell native rebills, which like hypothetically, just meaning what I mean by that is like someone buys a product before their cart session is ended, but the credit card payment's already in there. They can click one button as an upsell, but it'd be a rebill in which it was a subscription. And that was not even possible with Shopify. And I spoke to a lot of big people. They were just like, this is just not Shopify Plus. You get closer anyway. So that was sort of a nightmare. But yeah,
it's a tough run. All right, what are we rolling down the list here? What about browsers extensions? Chrome boys all around.
Chrome boys all around. LastPass. You guys, without LastPass, I am completely gone. I don't know if you guys like how you store your passwords, but LastPass.
I am the dude that memorizes like easily 34 string dash with 4 string digits like in a pattern. So yeah, it is what it is.
We're not all Rain Man. We're not Rain Man over here. Take him to the blackjack table with me. But no, I mean I'm pretty good with memory stuff. But it becomes. I mean, what I find is that like I overall 95% of them I know, but then there'll be like some random thing. Right, like my water bill, like like LA Waters. I don't know, you know what I mean? Where it's like I don't remember this exactly,
and
it has to be.
Years ago.
Yeah, and it has to be like a special character and 14 characters. And
for anyone asking, James uses the date of the first Civil War battle, followed by like the date that he was born, and then the name of his dog. You figure those 3 things out, you can get access to any of his money you want. Right? He's just
anything. 100p. You deserve it if you figure it out. That's sort of
which Civil War is the right question.
Loom. I'm a huge fan of Loom, the Chrome, Chrome plugin
recording,
for
Loom. Recording
Loom.
plugin. Same thing.
I
like
just
async
recently
stuff,
kind of started
really
embracing Loom, and it's so good. It's so excellent.
Loom, like the Loom, Slack, like the some of these things, like the modern workflow for like people who are collaborating together is just so fucking good.
Yeah.
Oh, the other one that I just started really using, and I was been loving this already, but I just started using the Chrome extension for it, is Calendly. And if you guys use Calendly, they have a Chrome extension you can use, and it's actually great because I often would find myself going, and this is such a lazy thing, but I got to go to Calendly, pull up my calendar, pull out a link. You just press the Chrome extension button, and it drops it as an overlay for you right here, and we'll just pull up all your meetings. Meeting
now, have you seen the new the Power Dynamics settings, where you can kind of select how your Power Dynamics are presented to? I'm just a joke based on them
like
getting
how
quasi
flex on
canceled.
someone. Basically, if you want to seem like a flex, you just send a calendar that has no opportunity to book a call except for one in the next 60 days. They have to choose it. But no, I mean, I got Grammarly in here and stuff, but LastPass is a game changer for me. Obviously, and Loom and LastPass are the Chrome game changers for me.
So Loom as of late, but it's an absolute game changer. I don't know what took me so long. And then Great Suspender is a lifesaver for your boy. So Great Suspender like automatically suspends a tab, basically like takes the site offline. So it leaves the tab open, but then takes it offline, so it's not eating up memory and doing things basically. Because Chrome is like a notorious, obviously, RAM hog and can be using a lot, especially in the background. And so for those of us with 30 tabs open, basically you can have 30 tabs open and only have 3 of them actually open and active. And you just single click to reload it when you're going back to it.
Yeah, there's a extension I use all the time called What Runs, where you click on it and it'll tell you what's running the website. Like I clicked on this for Riverside, we're recording this in. It's like, oh, they're running Google Analytics because it's written in Node.js. They're using Cloudflare. Like their fonts are loaded from Google fonts. And there's another one that recently went offline. I'm looking for a replacement of it. They'll tell you all the Shopify plugins a store is running too. Let me see if I have that.
I mean, if we're going to keep going on that line, I'm a huge fan of the. Google and Facebook have their pixel helpers, right? So if you're anyone who's setting up the GTM, don't get me started on that. But with the Facebook pixel, I love that. Like this has only existed in the past couple of years, but you can just install their Chrome plugin, and then you go to the page that you want to like track a conversion. You literally click where you want on the page of the button, and it sets a conversion event. And
much easier.
So much easier. And it sort of just makes it easier for everyone to get the MVPs done. My thought is this, I don't know about you guys. I mean, like, actually I do. But, like, I'm a jack of all trades, right? So, like, I can get the basics done. And so for having tools like this helps someone like me get the really basics done, get sort of things off to market, out the door, and then you hire or you work with experts in their field to like make the complex stuff come together. And so this is the best time in life, I think, to sort of have a working knowledge of everything and not be a master of anything.
And I'll give a big shout out. Speaking of, I'll give a shout out to Figma, just because like Figma replaced Photoshop for me almost entirely, and because of how, and then the ability to just, if you are just shallow at Figma. Like you don't have to be a technical person or a designer, but if you can go in there and now the way it works is they have chats essentially within Figma, and people can leave notes. You see where everyone's cursor is. People are working in the same projects, and if you just understand what that's happening, and you're working on UI or you're working on flyers or any of those kind of things, like it's just such an amazing design tool. And they're innovating so fast. The amount they roll out features, they got automations now and all that, and it is like you can just watch like how Adobe is being, which was obviously a powerhouse, is just being like replaced by this newer, better, faster option is really, really exciting.
Sure. It makes me
on that note. So Whimsical is a big part of my life for, similar to Figma, not similar, but for wireframing is what made me think of it. But it does a lot more. So it does wireframing. It's like literally all I use for showing developer what I want a layout to look like or how I want functionality to work. But then also it has flow charting modes. It's basically a whiteboard online. That's another place where, I've used Google Draw for a lot of like faux whiteboarding sessions, and it kind of sort of works. Whimsical is like A+ for that kind of scenario because you can do things like Oren said of, tag an element with a comment or type right there in line and so on and so forth. Whimsical is a huge part of my workflow.
Cool. Didn't know about it. Looking at it now.
All right. Last section we had in here was sort of the kitchen sink sweet hacks. Anything kind of extra we might have in there? You already started touching on some of that. Any things that don't fall in any other categories that are worth whacking on?
I wanted to hit like hardware, like actual computer setup. We've texted about this a little bit. I am like intentionally no peripherals, MacBook only. Like no external monitor, no external keyboard, no external mouse. Just because I absolutely hate if I get dependent on that thing and I'm trying to work and I don't have it. and now I'm like not second nature with how I run my stuff. It drives me crazy. So I'm curious what y'all use.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but I've got that 16-inch 2.6 i7 32 gig memory MacBook. We got to run off the best of the best, largest of the largest. But yeah, I used to feel that same way. But then now I've got this 36-inch LG curved monitor on my desk that is just such a blessing to work with when I do have the chance to work with it. And obviously I don't get it every day. I've got to keep it in the mix. It's just so amazing.
I actually recently got an external monitor for like when I need it to be able to use it. But I probably have it plugged in like 20% of the time.
What's interesting
and
is
again,
that
I don't want to become dependent.
So it's funny because you definitely it's what you're used to, because I only had a MacBook for like 5 years. I mean, for sure, like it traveled around the world with me, did the digital nomad laptop thing, like ran a business off it, like all this stuff. And then I had a full on, like for 3 years, I had a real office and I had dual monitors and a desktop computer. And I got so used to that. I got used to, like, we were talking about keyboards the other day, to the click clack of like a real keyboard, right? Like that was like the sound, the feeling, like I liked that actually. And now what I have is I have a new MacBook M1 Air, and I have that plugged in with HDMI to Scepter, to like this cheap Scepter monitor, which like which does it for me.
The Scepter,
Scepter sponsors the pod.
Use code build at scepter.org.
We have two of their 65-inch 4K TVs with like built-in Roku in our office, and they're A+, super highly rated.
I
they're
like
like 4.8 out of 5 on Amazon. Like they're really excellent, super cheap.
Well, now I will tell you,
let's talk some PE.
I could not ever go back. I mean, trust me, earlier today I was just on my laptop, and I was like, oh man, this little MacBook Air is tiny. Now that I'm used to sitting with like an actual mouse, a keyboard, I have this Logitech keyboard that I'm in love with, of 27 or a 32-inch screen. I don't know how. I like the idea of being on just my laptop seems like a nightmare to me. So kudos, Colin. Kudos.
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't know. I can't, like, whenever I am plugged in, it just feels so good. Especially with the big monitor, I'm like, I got all the tabs, all the screens, everything in the full size. It's just like, let's go.
Do you go vertical? Because my external is vertical, and it's new to me.
No,
I'm experimenting.
I experimented with that, but
is for like, are you coding and stuff? I feel like vertical is like, I feel like you're plugging into the matrix. You're coding some stuff, you know what I mean?
It technically makes more sense because the way you can stack and like long windows and shit.
It's like it's a big high res display, so it's like the width of a window when it's vertical is like pretty much the same as a laptop.
Sure, I mean I guess it makes sense.
I think with the size, like I had the straight, but then when I got the curved monitor, that was like a huge thing. If you have like the big ass monitor versus the two, or just like the single curved one was just really like didn't hurt my eyes, was more aesthetic all overall.
And we know, I mean, listen, let me tell you, if anyone wants to know how to win Oren's heart, aesthetics. That's about it.
Yeah,
right? I mean, it's not ergonomics.
We got to look. These books are color organized.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't. Is that what? Do we have anything else? I think that's it, right?
No, I think we talked about some segments at some point, but we've gone on pretty long here. We could we could do James Explains. I don't have anything good off the top of my head.
I'll be really interested to see. By the way, like it's always a pleasure to chat with the two of you. I love the pod, no matter what. But I'll be really interested to see what people think, because like even though this is more structured, it is way less chaotic fun than just going into random stuff. So I hope everyone loves it. If everyone loves it, we'll go hard on this. That's we do what the people want.
But that's the beauty is we can push that shit out tomorrow. We can come back the other day. It's just freestyle pod. It's just us for our stream of consciousness. I'm just picking prompts. I'm just picking prompts for out there.
Just look around the room.
Starfish, 5
Buddhism. Stars.
Machiavelli.
Dude, Machiavelli. Dude, Tupac.
Yeah.
When I say Machiavelli, what do you think? Tupac? Me too.
Yep.
John Pompliano.
But no, I mean, listen, I don't have anything left. I think the only things from my list I had here was I'm a big fan of athletic greens these days. I throw in some sun and some
nutrition. Whole separate pod on nutrition. I'll have you over. We'll sous vide some steaks. We'll pads of ghee. For the brothers.
Do what we gotta do. But I guess that's it.